Aha, and we're live. Testing, testing, one, two, three. Hopefully got a wee green piece of green from my sound machine. So had a little bit of problems just getting connected there on early a wee bit just before 10 o'clock, just to make sure everything's working okay. So if anybody's out there, would you say hello and let me know if you can hear me okay. Again, we're trying a new sort of sound configuration, but hopefully everything's okay. There we go, just getting organized as usual. And it's, tonight is going to be chapter 39 of Children of Dune, which I think I've called The God Emperor is Born. We see a bit of a change with young Leto II here. I'll just get the book over here. Make sure we've got a couple of wee mistakes, I think, again, as usual. There's 10 o'clock, folks, so I think if everything's okay, I will say hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Doc Sloan. Welcome to my science fiction station, also known as the Doghouse. And tonight we're looking at chapter 39 of Children of Dune. In my copy of the book, that will be this copy, it's 266. And it's the epigraph that begins with, "You will learn the integrated communication methods." That's where we're at here. Tonight, we're starting a new notebook. Pardon me. Have we got them behind us? Let me see. I should have probably moved the other way. But here's all our notebooks so far. We've got 8 of them filled. And so tonight, this is Children of Dune Book Club, our 3rd volume of the notes. This is our 9th volume of notes, actually, since we've started this whole thing. There's Carlos Crescelius and hey Doc, hey everyone. Hello Carlos, how you doing? Can you hear me okay, Carlos? Is everything coming through all right? Would you let me know, please? And otherwise, it's good to see you, sir. Hello, how you doing? I was just trying out a new sort of setup with the microphone at the minute. That's why I keep asking at the minute, just to see. I try to cut down on all these kind of little static kind of clicks and things that we're getting. I think it seems to have worked, but yeah, hopefully you can hear. Oh, excellent, brilliant, Carlos. Sounds just fine here. Thank you very much indeed, sir. Much appreciated. Yeah. Well, I was actually thinking we were going to do 2 chapters tonight, but it's only going to be 1. I'm just having, because I wouldn't have got the other one done in time. Just had a couple of things to get done in the real world. But we are going to have a couple of chapters on their own, and a cluster of doubled up ones. But this one's quite important and carries on almost not too long not too long after where we've last left Leto. That was quite hard to say. With Namri. So it's an interesting one. It's kind of been a Gom Jabbar moment with Namri previously, and with this strange riddle game that they've played, and it's been made very clear to Paul at that point that failure to answer the riddles correctly, etc., is death. So I think I said it kind of reminded me a wee bit on the Riddles in the Dark, that sort of chapter of The Hobbit. I think it is. And I don't know, it was a very different type of riddle, wasn't it? Excuse me, sorry, my eyes a wee bit. Oh, okay, today. There we go. That's better. Ooh, I guess everybody's out mowing their lawns today. It's all pollen up everywhere. There's Cynthia saying hi, Doc, and all. Hello, Cynthia. How you doing? Thank you very much for joining us as always. Carlos is saying life always seems to get in the way of fun, don't it? Yeah, well, I don't know. I was out walking the dogs not too long before I started this. Actually, just done about half an hour with them. Just up the wee road, the road to nowhere, as I call it, with all the grass and the farmlands kind of yay high now. Sort of just paying attention to the birds and stuff, But yeah, sometimes you forget about life just being fun itself, don't you, Carlos? I think. But yeah, it does. It can get in the way now and then. I got a surprise MOT pulled on me tonight. Basically, there's one of the there's one of the things that happened to me. So the wife basically told me I was doing that, and I hadn't expected to be doing it, and no, she convinced me that I'd agreed to do it, and then basically I found out I had 30 minutes to get the car down to MOT centre to get it through. So that was a good fun one today. That was life sort of going, hello. Carlos is saying, welcome, senorita. Yes, indeed. So life's always getting in the way. But that's all good, isn't it? Now I've got enough light in here. The light's not too bad. The light in here is not great. Bear with me a wee second, folks. I've just got to throw some stuff out of the way. So we've got our. We'll kick off with our epigraph. It's a fast little chapter, this, and I think it's a momentous one. In terms of our Dune series, we have a big moment here. I think with Leto II, as I said, I've called this chapter "A God Emperor is Born." There's a change that will occur in this chapter. And it's reminiscent in some ways of Paul's Gom Jabbar moment way back at the start of Dune as well. So here's our epigraph. You will learn the integrated communication methods as you complete the next step in your mental education. This is the Gestalten function, which will overlay data paths in your awareness, resolving complexities and masses of input from the mental index catalog techniques, which you already have mastered. Your initial problem will be the breaking tensions arising from the divergent assembly of minutiae data on specialized subjects. Be warned, without Mentat overlay integration, you can be immersed in the Babel problem, which is the label we give to the omnipresent dangers of achieving wrong combinations from accurate information. And that's the Mentat handbook. Pardon me. Get a few things in there, a little bit of name dropping. We have the Babel problem. As it's put, without Mentat overlay integration, you can be immersed in the Babel problem, which is the label, it's the name that we give to the omnipresent dangers of achieving wrong combinations from accurate information. This is from the Mentat handbook. I suppose this is the Mentat's problem, isn't it, really, ultimately? Is coming to the wrong conclusion by putting 2 and 2 together and basically getting 5 occasionally. So we've got a wee sort of reference to Babel there, of course, the Tower of Babel. I've always gone with it as being a Babylonian ziggurat. Let's have a wee look. Tower of Babel, because we have our Babel fish. Let's just have a look at it from Wikipedia. So Tower of Babel is an origin myth and parable in the book of Genesis, chapter 11, meant to explain the existence of different languages and cultures. According to the story, a united human race speaking a single language migrates to Shinar, which is lower Mesopotamia, where they agree to build a great city with a tower that would reach the sky. Yahweh, observing these efforts and remarking on humanity's power and unity, confounds their speech so that they can no longer understand each other and scatters them around the world, leaving the city unfinished. Some modern scholars associate the Tower of Babel with known historical structures and accounts, particularly from ancient Mesopotamia. The most widely attributed inspiration is Etemenanki, a ziggurat dedicated to the god Marduk in Babylon, which in Hebrew was called Babel. A similar story is also found in the ancient Sumerian legend Enmerkar and the Lord of Aratta, which describes events and locations in southern Mesopotamia. So there we go. It just says below, by the way, that the phrase the Tower of Babel does not appear in Genesis nor elsewhere in the Bible. It is always the city and the tower, or just the city. The original derivation of the name Babel, which is the Hebrew for Babylon, is uncertain. The native Akkadian name of the city was Bab Ilim, meaning gate of God. However, that form and interpretation itself are now usually thought to derive from Akkadian folk etymology, applied to an earlier form of the name Babila, of unknown meaning and probably non-Semitic origin. There we go. There's probably a whole pile of stuff there on Babel from literature and art, etc. Yeah, Wikipedia, if anybody wants to have a look at it. Who's the really good drawing? What's the really famous piece of art? I've always liked it. It's the cover for my there it is there. Isn't that the cover for my copy of Utopia? Something like that. Oh, I bet you that's not. Bear with me a wee second, folks. Who would you be? It's Thomas Miller. Bear with me a wee second. Just to see if I can find this. No, I don't see it. There, it's probably with my other books. It's not there. It's not it. That's a crime of organization. I think that's Thomas Moore's Utopia. I think which is there somewhere, but I've not put it in with the sci-fi stuff. It's probably up there with my English stuff, which I haven't sorted yet. Yes, it's the Tower of Babel by Lucas van Valkenborg, which is in the Louvre Museum, painted 1594. That's a fantastic painting. That's quite a good one. Tourist Babel from Athanasius Kircher. Just having a wee nosy at the Confusion of Tongues by Gustave Doré. Just the art there on Wikipedia, very, very good. But there we go. That confounding of tongues, if you like, some Babel problem, something similar to, I suppose I'm imagining some kind of being confounded, if you like, from a Mentat's point of view because of the amount of minutiae, the amount of data, the sheer vast numbers of combinations of putting this stuff together, and also the fact that, as we're always pointed out, that the Baron's lesson from Dune is that what the Mentat doesn't know is a big problem. And I suppose we also know that their confidence can be knocked as well, don't we? There's Object Grape saying, "Hey Doc, hello there." And Carlos Casellas saying, "Could prescience be considered the ultimate expression of the Mentat abilities?" Julian Thompson saying, "Hey everyone, hi Julian, how are you?" Oh goodness, I don't know. I suppose it's the Kwisatz Haderach. To be a Kwisatz Haderach, you need to start. Is it, the recipe is first start with a Mentat, isn't it? Prescience be considered the ultimate expression of the Mentat abilities. I suppose if you wanted to take it, looking at it from a kind of computing point of view, ultimately, something like that would be like having a Mentat, like a quantum computing Mentat, if you see what I mean. Being able to perform calculations and figure out probabilities of things without actually having to figure them out at all. Prescience is other memory combined with Mentat computation. Other memory is a massive data pool. No, it's not. I'm gonna put my computer scientist head on. It is not. It's an information warehouse, if you like, but it's not data. I think that it could be seen as data until the memory is brought forward, if you like. But data has no meaning to human beings at all. It's how you process data, then it becomes information. That's what is meaningful to us. If you see what I mean. Prescience is other memory combined with Mentat computation. Other memory is a massive data pool. That's good. Yeah, I would go with it. Does that mean Frank is misusing the term data? He does often. Julian as at least twice. He's discussed an equation where it's not been an equation. I don't know. Frank's kind of into computers at that time, but that's kind of like a word processing type thing. The computers are not that, brilliant back in the 70s, and certainly his. I was wondering about it because some of the things that he's talking about here, there's a kind of change in computing in the 70s. It's to do with a thing called the software crisis, and we get a sort of new kind of generation of stuff coming out. It ends up creating all the kind of standardized things because I suppose back then you had some, I suppose, computer programmers that some of the languages that they would use would be as individual as they were, if you see what I mean, and it created all sorts of problems. And I suppose out of that you got all your kind of standardized languages, ultimately things like HTML and things, and your new sort of databases, your relational databases and things like that. But data. It's people misuse it all the time. It's you'll hear it on the news a while lot. I haven't listened to the BBC in a while or watched the BBC in a while, but they do it all the time. You'll hear people just saying, "So what does the data tell us?" The data tells us this. Data tells you nothing. It's meaningless. So data that's processed and given a form, if you like, it becomes information. And then how you use that information is what we call knowledge in the computing world, if you like. That's our terminology for it. But data is meaningless to human beings completely. It has, if it has any meaning to you or me, then it's not data anymore. Then you get to data. So data on something, information on something is a completely different thing. But yeah, it's information's at the end here, isn't it? Be warned, without mentat overlay integration, you can be immersed in the Babel problem, which is the label we give to the omnipresent dangers of achieving wrong combinations from accurate information. So yeah, it is the kind of thing where they're right but they're wrong, if you see what I mean, and it's probably quite easy to be like that in life. I'm surprised at some point there's not a quote from something within the Dune universe that has that ancient old adage, which is just that shit happens. So a way of looking at the whole thing, this is what a mentat will learn. You will learn the integrated communication methods as you complete the next step in your mental education. This is a gestalten function which will overlay data paths in your awareness, resolving complexities and masses of input from the mental index catalog techniques which you already have mastered. Your initial problem will be the breaking tensions arriving between the divergent assemblies of minutia and data on specialized subjects. Be warned, without a mentat overlay integration, you can be lost in this stuff, basically, and may come to the wrong conclusions. And I'm kind of wondering, why is this here at the start of this chapter? Why this epigraph? And it's something I think that basically we just need to consider as we go through it. That is, in terms of who's putting 2 and 2 together in this chapter and coming up with 5, if you see what I mean. Who's coming to the wrong conclusions from the right information, and certainly from different characters' point of view. Within this chapter, things kind of look quite bad. So let me have a wee sip of this, folks. Let's see. So they're saying combining data to reach the right kind of information may be as difficult as building a tower to reach heaven. Laughing at that. Oh, excuse me. Hiccups. Pardon me. I always find that the Tower of Babel story fascinating. It's an interesting thing. I've got my wee Babel fish up there. There he is. Hey. Yeah, it's it's an interesting story. As I said, it's probably like an ideological myth that explains why we have so many languages, if you like. And most likely was probably a ziggurat, yeah. So it wouldn't have been that big, I suppose. But yes, indeed, combining data to reach the right kind of information might be as difficult as building a tower to reach heaven. Now, the Babel problem. And how it can be immersed in the Babel problem. Omnipresent dangers of achieving wrong combinations from accurate information. We'll see how it runs here, I suppose. But I put that the Babel function, this is what I made we note of, essentially is the inability to disseminate information and draw wrong conclusions from accurate data and information. That's essentially what I got. So obviously a big problem for a mentat. I like the one thing I do like about the epigraph here is it's kind of chatty, kind of it would remind you on something almost from the Hitchhiker's Guide, is you will learn the integrated community, that you've already mastered. This kind of thing. It's kind of quite chirpy, and suggests that it's the mental index catalog techniques which you already have mastered. It suggests that it's a book for a mentat who's a certain way down his lessons, if you see what I mean. There's a level of knowledge and skill already in place. Be warned, it has that kind of, I don't know, that kind of feel to it. I don't know what I'm thinking of. So there we go. So this is Leto. Let me just I was open up the right page there. Where's me? Okay, this is interesting. We start here. The sound of fabrics rubbing together sent sparks of awareness through Leto. He was surprised that he had tuned his sensitivity to the point where he automatically identified the fabrics from their sound. The combination came from a Fremen robe rubbing against the coarse hangings of a door curtain. He turned toward the sound. It came from the passage where Namri had gone minutes before. Pardon me. As Leto turned, he saw his captor enter. It was the same man who had taken him prisoner. The same dark strip of skin above the stillsuit mask, the identical searing eyes. The man lifted a hand to his mask, slipped the catch tube from his nostrils, lowered the mask, and, in the same motion, flipped his hood back. Even before he focused on the scar of the ink vine whip along the man's jaw, Leto recognized him. The recognition was a totality in his awareness, with the search for confirming details coming afterward. No mistake about it, this rolling lump of humanity, this warrior troubadour, was Gurney Halleck. Leto clenched his hands into fists, overcome momentarily by the shock of recognition. No Atreides retainer had ever been more loyal, none better at shield fighting. He'd been Paul's trusted confidant and teacher. Pardon me, he was the Lady Jessica's servant. These recognitions and more surged through Leto's mind. Gurney was his captor. Gurney and Namri were in this conspiracy together, and Jessica's hand was in it with them. I understand you've met our Namri, Halleck said. Pray believe him, young sir. He has one function and one function only. He's the one capable of killing you should the need arise. I like this bit here. Leto responded automatically with his father's tones. So you've joined my enemies, Gurney. I never thought that. And he's cut off here. Try none of your devil tricks. Try none of your devil tricks on me, lad, Halleck said. I'm proof against them all. I follow your grandmother's orders. Your education has been planned to the last detail. It was she who approved my selection of Namri. What comes next, painful as it may seem, is at her command. So I suppose just in terms of from our epigraph right away, Leto has seen Gurney here. He's the man that's captured me. He's supposed to be this loyal Atreides retainer. He's working for the Lady Jessica. I think he's seeing this as real betrayal. That there's a conspiracy here. He's in shock of this. And I think that's of course that all points to they're all out to get him, that he's doomed in a sense here, and of course he's not. That they believe they're doing this for his own good. But Leto's response is to immediately slip into his father's tones here with Gurney. and Gurney's Gurney's wise to it. But it's a very interesting thing for Leto, for this 9-year-old to immediately do with this extremely deadly man, and who's at this point who should be his loyal retainer, but he suspects the worst of. Interesting response, and a very good response from Gurney. We have the use of the term devil tricks, which I just thought was a wee bit interesting. So this is Leto. And what does she command? Halleck lifted a hand from the folds of his robe, exposed a Fremen injector, primitive but efficient. Its transparent tube was charged. Now I've got the word charge here, folks. I think it's charged. Should be charged. I wonder, could somebody check that? I just lost my pen. There it is. Pardon me. Yeah, its transparent tube was charged with blue fluid. I'm pretty sure it's charged with blue fluid. Leto squirmed backward on the cot, was stopped by the rock wall. As he moved, Namri entered, stood beside Halleck with hand on crysknife. Together they blocked the only exit. So they have this syringe, basically with blue fluid in it. This is the water of life. And we're told here, this is Gurney, I see you recognize the spice essence, Halleck said. You're to take the worm trip, lad. You must go through it. Otherwise, what your father dared and you dare not would hang over you for the rest of your days. Leto shook his head wordlessly. This was the thing he and Ghanima knew would overwhelm them. Gurney was an ignorant fool. How could Jessica? Leto felt the father presence in his memories. It surged into his mind, trying to strip away his defenses. Leto wanted to shriek outrage, could not move his lips. But this was the wordless thing, which his preborn awareness most feared. This was prescient trance, the reading of immutable future with all of its fixity and its terrors. Surely Jessica could not have ordered such an ordeal for her own grandson, but her presence loomed in his mind, filling him with acceptance arguments. Even the litany of fear was pressed upon him with a repetitive droning. And then, again, I suppose that's in my book. I'm just wondering about that. Couple of things that are interesting, I suppose, before we move forward. That's a good enough place to stop just before we read the litany. Again, just based on the introductory epigraph here, Jessica, Gurney, all behaving, acting upon a plan that they believe is right because they've put 2 and 2 together and come up with 5. And they're executing this plan now. And this is the thing that they've decided that the twins need to have done, is the one thing that the 2 twins fear the most, that they've been doing their damnedest to make sure it doesn't happen. So of mice and men, if you like, the best laid plans of Muad'Dib and Fremen in this one. I'll just check. Yes, my text says charge. Thank you very much. Julian said I'm more worried for Namri than Leto. Yes, my text says charge. Thank you very much, Cynthia. I figured that one. Yeah, just a drop letter. I always stumble over these things. Sorry, just looking for my pen. There you are. Yeah, charged. There we go. Let's put that D in there. Charged with blue fluid. Yes, indeed. So, they're actually going to inject it into him, aren't they? And Leto's not happy about this. The litany against fear, as we know it, we were having a wee chat about this the other night, just for about, we were on having a wee, but just with the anniversary episode, is that the very first time we hear it's called the response to the litany against fear. I don't know again if this is a book, but I have the litany of fear in this one. It's just before where I've stopped actually. And I'm wondering again, is that possibly a misprint? Have we got the wrong word in there? Even the litany of fear was pressed upon him with a repetitive droning. I must not fear. And then we have the litany of fear up to a point with the last bit not followed on, if you like, with. Particularly, I thought what was interesting is the bit that only I will remain. That's the bit that we don't get to hear at the end, isn't it? There's a little bit more to go. So the other thing, just before we move on with that, is that you recognise the spice esoterics. We're referring to taking the water of life now as the worm trip. And I'm not, again, it was just the terminology. I think bringing the worm into the experience, if you like, of doing it would be suggestive of Fremen language and stuff like that. But it made me think that it made me think that I honestly didn't think they would call it a trip. It's just, it didn't strike me it strikes me as a hippie term rather than a Fremen term from the year 10,001, whatever it is at this point. So they're going to force the issue and they're going to make him go through the worm trip, as we're now going to call it. This is what he's afraid of. This is the prescient trance, the reading of a mutable future with all of its fixity and its terrors. Surely Jessica could not have ordered such an ordeal for her own grandson. She did. But her presence loomed in his mind, filling him with acceptance arguments. Even the litany of fear was pressed upon him with a repetitive droning. So I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, and of course it's not completed here. And Frank's been doing a couple of little things that within the last few chapters where we have things unsaid, if you like, or left hanging. So this is Leto. With an oath already ancient, when Chaldea was young, Leto tried to leap at the two men standing over him, but his muscles refused to obey. As though he already existed in the trance, Leto saw Halleck's hand move, the injector approach. The light of a glow globe sparkled with the blue fluid. The injector touched Leto's left arm. Pain lanced through him, shot upward to the muscles of his neck, into his head. Pardon me. Chaldea or Chaldeans, if you like, are people from, I suppose, where we've been talking about there a minute ago with having a matter about the Tower of Babel, from the southern part of Mesopotamia. In the Bible, Abraham is from Ur of the Chaldees, isn't it? Which is in other words, it's the Chaldean version of the city of Ur, which is the same city as the city of Ur from the time of Gilgamesh, etc., the Sumerian city. So it seems that's an example of one of their places of occupation, if you like, but there's a good over 2,000 years separating those peoples, if you like. So that's where they're from, and they're pretty well known. Let's have a wee look. Let's bring them up. Let's see. Chaldea, Wikipedia, just very quickly. Chaldea refers to a region probably located in the marshy land of southern Mesopotamia. It is mentioned with varying meaning in Neo-Assyrian cuneiform, the Hebrew Bible, and in classical Greek texts. The Hebrew Bible uses the term Kasdim. I've got Ur Kasdim here, to do for that. And this is translated as Chaldeans in the Greek Old Testament. That's the city Ur of the Chaldeans, Ur Kasdim. During a period of weakness in the East Semitic-speaking kingdom of Babylonia, new tribes of West Semitic-speaking migrants arrived in the region from the Levant between the 11th and 9th centuries BC. The earliest wave consisted of Suteans and Arameans, followed a century or so later by the Kaldu, a group who became known later as the Chaldeans or the Chaldees. These migrations did not affect the powerful kingdom and empire of Assyria in Upper Mesopotamia, which repelled these incursions. There you go. So we've been Frank's been having a wee bit of a nosy around this part of the world in these books, hasn't he? So if you want to check them out on Wikipedia, have a nosy. There you go. Chaldea is the Latinization of the Greek Chaldea, Hellenization of the Akkadian Mat Kaldu or Kazdu, suggesting an underlying Kaldu. The term Chaldea appears in Hebrew in the Bible as Kazdim, while Chaldeans are Hebrew Kazdim and Aramaic Kazdain. There you go. Genesis lists Kesed, perhaps a singular form of Kazdim, as son of Abraham's brother Nahor and brother of Kemuel, the father of Aram, residing in Aram Naharaim. Let's see, Jubilees 11:7 claims that Ur, son of Kesed, built the city of Ur Kasdim, and he named it after himself and his father. There you go. There's more stuff there from Josephus. All sorts, yep. There you go. Another interesting bunch of people from between the rivers. Oh dear. So yeah, very much just mentioned in passing here, isn't it? We've had some very interesting historical overlay. We've had a very interesting historical overlay from this part of the world, and we've had a little bit of name dropping from Frank from the just for want of a better word, the Mesopotamian cultures, if you like. Let's have a wee look. Christopher Crowley says, "Hi Christopher, I blame Paul for many of the thing, but he seems more human than his son. Perhaps both of the twins never able to be individuals due to their inner memories being there since birth. Paul is still wrong, but I can understand him turning from the path." Gurney suggests that Leto would never have dared the spice trance. I thought it was a matter of timing. Leto and his sister wanted stronger personalities before they dared to take the spice. That's kind of what I got, that they were trying to sort of strengthen who they were, and didn't want other people to kind of interfere in that they had their own plan very much. But I don't know. I'm not too sure. I'm just again having a bit of Dune drift. Stronger personalities before they dared to take the spice. I think certainly they were trying to avoid it for as long as possible. Christopher saying, well, there's debate then to say did Harum or whatever it was he called take control of Leto? That's an interesting question. He claims to have reached a consensus, but can we trust this unreliable narrator? Very, very good. We're going to be mentioning Harum. I'm kicking myself with Harum because I'm going to tell you who he is. And here's my real problem is I did the research on this guy. It took me a long time, and I found it. I know who he is, but I cannot prove it. And I've been like, I can't find the evidence that I had. And I've been trying to look again, and I remember it taking me a long time. So we're going to mention Harum tonight, folks, and I'll tell you who I believe it is. In fact, I'll just, to be completely honest, and I'm not being a dick about it or anything like this, I did do the research on this. I had the papers and I've lost them. They're all gone. So I can tell you who I'm pretty certain it was, but I've got no evidence at all to back it up. I remember getting the Abraxas coin I was after from the Jewish Encyclopedia. So I'm thinking about having a search around there and looking at I need to look at cartouche names and breaking the letter into its root, or the word name into its roots. But I'm trying to make a connection in the way I'm searching, and I didn't have that information the last time I found the information, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of trying to rerun it in my head to see if I can figure out how I found out who it was. But Harum, as far as I am concerned, is the the Egyptian pharaoh Khufu, who the Greeks called Cheops, and we have Cheops as pyramid chess in the Dune universe, isn't it? So that's who I'm pretty sure it is. If it wasn't him, it would be Ramesses II, I think. But I can't prove it. But we'll get to it. I'm just to let you know that I'm going to keep working at that problem in the background. If anybody wants to work at it yourselves, and see if you can find evidence for Harum, who's an Egyptian pharaoh, then go for it. It might save me a lot of work, but I'm going to try and find it anyway. But that's who I believe it is. And once upon a time, that was the conclusion I came to. But now I've got a big pile, based on the off chance that I might have it. I've dug out a whole lot of papers, and I've got some more folders in the garage. So I'm going to pile all the paper work out. But I'm pretty sure I found a cartouche for it. Anyway, and we'll see what we can do. But fingers crossed, if you like, But yeah, he claims to have reached the consensus. It's a very good question. How can we trust this unreliable narrator? Christopher said Masonic traditions would suggest the builder of the Temple of Solomon. For Harum. So have you got an idea? Well, who built the Temple of Solomon then? I thought it would have been. Bear with me. Commissioned by Solomon before being destroyed by siege of Jerusalem, Nebuchadnezzar II. Okay. Yeah. First temple is the temple of Mount. He very explicitly in the Book of Kings includes. Sorry, I shouldn't mumble when I read stuff off. I forget that all you guys are listening when I read stuff off Wikipedia. Let me see. About the construction ordering by Solomon. Let me see. I'll have to have a wee nosy at it. But I take it we don't have, say, an architect or a builder or anything like that called Harum. As I said, I pretty much thought that's who it was and who it lined up with, if you see what I mean. I'm going to have to figure out how I found this out, Saying he was involved in the acquisitions of materials for said temple. Is that a Harum? Let's see. Not that we're going to find out. Hang on. No, it's not going to bring anything up on Wikipedia. Yeah, we'll have to see what we can find, folks. Do you have a source for that, Christopher? He's involved in the acquisition of materials for said temple. Well, if that's the case, then that's interesting. We'll have to have a nosy. The acquisitions. I'll scribble that down anyway and get on the task. I do think, yes, again, I know that Cheops, as we call him, Khufu, has several different names. And again, I haven't been able to find one that lines up, but if the personality would make sense as well. Right, so let's see, Masonic tradition, okay. Builder, which is just the builder of the sun. Right. I'll have a look into that. Solomon. there's Chaya Sen. Shalom all, shalom Chaya, how you doing? Thank you very much for joining us as always. Yes, because I do at the moment as it was my song. Oh, that's okay. There's lots of stuff about them. About you can find things. I'll see what I can find out. Christopher, I'm a good researcher. I can find shit. I'll look into it. We've had some kind of some of the more esoteric stuff as well creeping in. Stuff like demonology and things like suggestions of Rosicrucianism and things like that previously. I think that was that. Was that in Dune Messiah? I'm not sure if I don't think it was in this book. But yeah, we'll have a nosy and see what we can find. But yeah, I do because we can get Abraxas within that kind of tradition, I think, as well, can't we? Abraxas with Gnosticism and so on. I was looking for the two at the same time, so that's interesting. I've got my source for my Abraxas coins and things like that. That's the interesting thing. When I found the information on the two things, it was around the same time. So I'm gonna kind of head towards a few things online, see what we can find out. But we're only getting a mention of them here now. But yeah, it's quite an important thing. Harum, I think. We've not got to him yet, have we? Let's see. I just mentioned the Chaldeans. Yeah. So we get this vision. So that's it. Basically, Leto has been pricked by the injector. And it's almost like Namri wasn't the real threat. In many ways, we're focused on Namri. Here comes this little injection. The one thing he feared the most, if you like, is in that syringe. And it's a very low-tech syringe, isn't it? It also reminds me a wee bit of the Hunter-Seeker from Dune and the box, I suppose, that the Reverend Mother Gaius Hel Mohim brings, because the box isn't the threat at all. It's the little needle, if you see what I mean. And in a sense here, I think Gurney's not a threat at all. It's the needle that's the threat. The reason why Gurney can't be in the room, the reason why it has to be Namri that would have to kill Leto is because Gurney's not. Interestingly enough, this is something that Gurney cannot do. He wouldn't be able to kill Leto, I think, and we get that here. Now, here we go. So he's swearing in Chaldean. Fair enough. Right, so he's been injected. Abruptly, Leto saw a young woman sitting outside a crude hut in dawnlight. She sat right there in front of him, roasting coffee beans to a rose brown, adding cardamom and melange. The voice of a rebec echoed from somewhere behind him. The music echoed and echoed until it entered his head, still echoing. It suffused his body, and he felt himself to be large, very large, not a child at all. And his skin was not his own. First time we hear that. I just made a wee note there. I thought it was a little bit like Alice from Alice in Wonderland, or a little bit like Gulliver. And I was also wondering, I've put cinnamon in my coffee before. I've even had pepper in coffee, but I was thinking cardamom pods in coffee. Is that a thing? Maybe someone can tell me, because that sounds wrong. I put cardamom pods in my curry, but I wouldn't want them in my coffee at all. That's I don't know. Just got me thinking. Is that right? Is that a thing? Well, it probably is. The melange, thinking the melange being a bit like cinnamon. Thank you, Cynthia. I had a real Turkish coffee not that long ago. I regretted it. It was woof. Turkish coffee has lots of cardamom. Thank you very much. I was wondering. Yeah, I dare say he wasn't making it up, but I just thought that's no. And his skin was not his own. So this is the first instance in this chapter. We're going to get it mentioned a number of times here. His skin was not his own. Right. In fact, how many? I think I may have miscounted because there's another one there. So that's number 2. which makes that one number 3, which makes that one number 4. Sorry, well, I update my notes here, which makes that one number 5. Yes, we're going to get this statement in relation to Leto's skin 5 times within the chapter. The first one here, and his skin was not his own. He knew that sensation. His skin was not his own. Warmth spread through his body as abruptly as his first vision. He found himself standing in darkness. It was night. Stars like a rain of embers fell in gusts from a brilliant cosmos. I like the word cosmos. The cosmos is a great word. It's a Greek word. If anybody's not too sure what it means, have a wee look at it. Here, what is the... but it's pretty much everything. There you go. That's just Wikipedia. Cosmos is the alternative name for the universe or its nature or order. Usage of the word cosmos implies viewing the universe as a complex and orderly system or entity. Greek word cosmos. From the verb cosmine meant generally to dispose, prepare, but essentially to order and arrange, as in troops for a battle, to set an army in array, also to establish a government or regime, to adorn and dress, especially of women. Thus, cosmos meant ornaments, decoration, etc., etc. It says the philosopher Pythagoras used the term cosmos for the order of the universe, and Anaxagoras further introduced the concept of a cosmic mind, the nous, ordering all things. There you go. My favorite, probably one of my favorite books of all time, is Cosmos by Carl Sagan. So, just highly recommend it. Pardon me. I highly recommend the TV series if anybody's not seen it. It's one of my all-time favorite things. I think I said Cosmos is Carl Sagan's Cosmos is the reason why a lot of people are scientists, but it's the reason why I'm a classicist. Oddly enough, I went on a different path with it, but I love it. Right, sorry folks, we're drifting there. Part of him knew there was no escaping, but still he tried to fight it until the Father presence intruded. I will protect you in the trance. The others within will not take it. So this is the presence of, pardon me, I'm assuming Paul as a product of other memory. And of course, Paul's not dead. Oh, sorry, I'm kind of fighting a cough and a hiccup at the minute. And I'm trying to get one to happen. Pardon me, there we go, it's the fizzy. So yes, I will, the Father presence as it's referred to here. I will protect you in the trance, the others will not take you. So this is one personality holding off the rest of the other memory horde, if you like. Wind tumbled Leto rolled him, hissing, pouring dust and sand over him, cutting his arms, his face, abrading his clothes, whipping the loose torn ends of now useless fabric. Pardon me. But he felt no pain, and he saw the cuts heal as rapidly as they appeared. Still, he rolled with the wind, and his skin was not his own. It will happen, he thought. But the thought was distant and came as though it were not his own. Not really his own. No more than his own skin. That's the 4th time that's been mentioned there now. Pardon me, we just had 3 and 4 in a row. The vision absorbed him. Oh, sorry, but it will happen, he thought. What's he talking about there? Or what's he thinking about? That the skin will not be his own is what he's referring to there. Now, the vision absorbed him. It evolved into a stereologic memory which separated past and present, future and present, future and past. Each separation mingled into a trinocular focus which he sensed as the multi-dimensional relief map of his own future existence. Pardon me. Let's have a look at some of these things here. We were having a wee natter about, I think, a few of them last time. Now, pardon me. Stereology is the three-dimensional interpretation of two-dimensional cross-sections of materials or tissues. It provides practical techniques for extracting quantitative information about a three-dimensional material for measurements made on two-dimensional planar sections of the material. There's no citations on this at all. So bear with me a wee second. Yeah, I suppose we're getting that anyway. So it's a 3D. Actually, I'm not going to buy that. That's... Yeah, okay, I've got enough. Stereology. Technique used to obtain three-dimensional information from two-dimensional images. Okay, that's our stereologic, or stroboscopic. Relates to or using a stroboscope. Describes the phenomenon of seeing a moving object appear to be static or slowed down when illuminated by a flashing light source. The effect, also known as the stroboscopic effect, is caused by the way our eyes and brain process rapidly changing light stimuli. So the stroboscopic effect, if you want to type that into Wikipedia, you'll get a little example of it. Depending, it says, on the frequency of flash, the element appears motionless or rotating in a reverse direction. So it's a visual phenomena caused by aliasing that occurs when continuous rotation or other cyclic motion is represented by a series of short or instantaneous samples at a sampling rate close to the period of the motion. It accounts for the wagon wheel effect, so called because in video spoke wheels, such as in horse-drawn wagons, sometimes appear to be turning backwards. There you go, that kind of thing. Yeah. Where does that, would that be used in making, what do you call them? Oh no, my head's going somewhere else. So that's what the stroboscopic is, what we're referring to. Visual effect, as you like. Okay. So he's dazzling us with some interesting terms here, isn't he? You know, but it's worth stopping to have a wee look at them, just to really make sure we discern the meaning of what he's talking about. They're not the average. Not all of these terms are in the average person's vocabulary, are they? Now, where were we? So the vision absorbed him. Let's see. His skin was not his own. It will happen, he thought, but the thought was distant and came as though it were not his own, not really his own, no more than his skin. And again, the suggestion there that, you know, what if this is Harum at work here? The thought was not his own. What if it's someone else's? What if it's the father presences? The vision absorbed him. It evolved him into a stereologic memory, which separated past and present and future and past. Each separation mingled into a trinocular focus, which he sensed as the multi-dimensional relief map of his own future existence. And I kind of got a sense of a bit of general semantics about this as well. Leto's thoughts here is he thought time is a measure of space, just as a rangefinder is a measure of space, but measuring locks us into the place we measure. And I've written next to that is that a bit more sort of map is not the territory kind of stuff. You know, the idea that if there's a map in front of you and that includes a place that you're that you're there on that map. If you see, I mean, are you represented on the map? There we go. Let me just catch up with your comments there, folks. Jared saying, is it possible that Harum is more of a god king model, more of an archetype than a specific figure? An archetype born from the Egyptian, Persian, Assyrian, and Sumerian god kings. Well, again, when I had it, when I found it, Cheops is the kind of right sort of, yes, that kind of individual, if you like. Khufu, sorry. A great builder as well. There's not that many of them that, if you had this one that could keep all of the others in line, and I'm no Egyptologist, but if I had to put, I would put my money on about a small handful of them, if you see what I mean. And as I said, I wouldn't have plucked Khufu out of thin air. I wouldn't. In fact, if I was probably trying to, up until the point where I figured out or found some evidence that it was him. And as I said, I can't back this up at the minute, but up until that point, I believed it was Ramesses II. I thought it would have been Ramesses the Great, who would have made a lot more sense. But again, couldn't connect the name there. But we'll have a nosy and see. But there's probably a number of candidates. But this is a name he's got. Well, again, we haven't even mentioned him yet, have we? We'll get to him a wee bit, but yeah, he's going to be fascinating, isn't he? Oh, there we go, Chaz. Harum. Yeah, I mean, see, I've found other stuff with different letters, but I've been trying to very specifically to find Harum. I'm thinking about the roots HRM. Oh, I've got to hang on. I'm jumping forward here. Let's see. Turkish coffee and lots of gum. Possible. Chaya saying, who was involved with acquisitions of Solomon's temple? Harum. Yeah, somebody was, Christopher, I think, was suggesting that in Masonic traditions, there's someone to do with that. Is a possible suggestion. This is a candidate. So it's interesting. We've got a new mystery. I think I have an answer, but I can't prove it. So we'll have to see what we could do, folks. A new mystery to be solved. Julian Thompson, Dune doesn't seem to operate in the Pythagorean cosmos or the Newtonian. Dune seems mostly post-Einstein. All the same, even with relativity, it's difficult to escape the Heraclitean Greek model. Yeah, he's on. Yes, it's post-Einstein. It's relativity. It's the quantum universe he's in, actually. I think. Carson, I remember the strobe lights from the Wayward Youth. And Julian said, stereologic, that's the word I was remembering. Geez, yeah, well, we've got both of them here this chapter, I think more than once. But yeah, it's worth checking out these things and to have the two of them together. So stereologic is where we're using, we're creating 3D images out of 2D information, if you like. Stroboscopics, where you kind of run a light, a certain thing, or it can be an illusion that's created by light, sort of it's like a spinning visual effect, if you like. So that's kind of what we get. We're trying to get a sense of what this is like for him. So it's Frank, he's using his language well. And if we're not too sure about words when we read a book, we should look them up. I think something I'm always encouraging my students to do. And even myself, even when you're not too sure, but it gives us a bit better sense of what this is like for Leto here. And his thoughts here, he said, time is a measure of space, just as a rangefinder is a measure of space, but measuring locks us into the place we measure. He sensed the trance deepening. It came as an amplification of internal consciousness, which his self-identity soaked up and through which he felt himself changing. That's hugely important there. It was living time and he could arrest an instant of it. Sorry, it was living time and he could arrest an instant of it. Memory fragments, future and past, deluged him, but they existed as montage in motion. The relationships underwent a constant dance. His memory was a lens, an illuminating searchlight which picked out fragments, isolating them, but forever failing to stop the ceaseless motion and modification which surged into his view. So again, a kind of an attempt to present us with what this is like. At the same time, he's going deeper into the trance, and this is fundamentally affecting him. There's Leto the second before this injection, and there's Leto, I suppose, during it, and then Leto after it, if you like. But that's kind of why I'm running with this. Is the birth of the God Emperor here, and he's I suppose in that sense that of course that this Gom Jabbar, this injection of the water of life, is a little death, isn't it? It's a rebirth for him as well. That's what I was trying to think of. Yeah, it's a rebirth, and he's going to have another kind of rebirth involving his skin. That which he and Ghanima had planned came through the searchlight, dominating everything, but now it terrified him. Vision reality ached in him. The uncritical inevitability made his ego cringe, and his skin was not his own. We've got an exclamation mark at last for that, I think. Just to jump back, no more than his skin, no, nothing there. His skin was not his own, number 3, no exclamation mark. Not for number 2, not for number 1 either. So I thought the first time you noticed that your skin wasn't your own would have deserved an exclamation mark. It's just me. Especially when Frank's very happy to use them quite a lot, you know. So we get that it's he's this amplification, the trance, going deeper into this trance. It's amplifying his internal consciousness, which his self-identity soaked up and through which he felt himself changing. And it's the identity that I suppose that's that in terms of what's going on with what he can see, the searchlight as it's referred to. They can see what he and Ghanima have planned, dominating everything, and now it's starting to scare him. Because that's his identity. Does that make sense? And as much as we didn't finish that bit of the litany against fear, in this chapter we left off the bit that ends with only I will remain. There's a little bit more than that, but that's the bit that's kind of, it's not followed through, because I think at that point he doesn't know what's going to remain. Will he remain? And that this identity that he's becoming, that he's changing into, is the God Emperor. And this is scary for him, I think. I like the fact that the uncritical inevitability made his ego cringe. And his skin was not his own. Past and present tumbled through him, surging across the barriers of his terror. He could not separate them. One moment he felt himself setting forth on Butlerian jihad, eager to destroy any machine which simulated human awareness. That had to be the past, over and done with. Yet his senses hurtled through the experience, absorbing the most minute details. He heard a minister companion speaking from a pulpit. And this is the minister companion here, from deep in the past. We must negate the machines that think. Humans must set their own guidelines. This is not something machines can do. Reasoning depends upon programming, not on hardware, and we are the ultimate program. I've written next to this. No, we're not. So programs are software. So I'm hardware, and so are you. But we've got software in there, and we've also got storage, don't we? But technically, a person is hardware. Hardware is anything you can hit. Is the definition, pretty much. So this is from a time of the Butlerian Jihad. We must get rid of the machines that think, whereas what this person's saying, we have to set our own guidelines, our own rules. Uh, this is something that machines can't do. I disagree. Reasoning depends upon programming, not on hardware, and we are the ultimate program. And as we're going to find out in a wee second, this is a person who um, thinks like a machine, or is attempting to think like a machine and talk like a machine. Their language is machine oriented. Um, he heard the voice. This is Leto. He heard the voice clearly, knew his surroundings. A vast wooden hall with dark windows. Light came from sputtering flames, sorry, and his minister companion said, um, I hope this is correct, by the way. Our jihad is a dump program. We dump the things which destroy us as humans. Now, I'll just run over that again. I actually have in my copy of the book our Fihad. Um, and you know what? I didn't even have. I didn't have the gumption to even bother to go and look at that. I knew that that had to be a mistake, and I'm hoping someone can confirm for me that it's jihad. There's got a big capital F in my copy. Uh, I thought it sounded my Fihad. Our Fihad. I wonder what that is. Our Fihad is a dump program. Yeah, it's jihad. Thank you very much. I don't know. Made it sound funny to me. Our jihad. Thank you. Oh, here, hang on. Did I miss that wee bit, by the way? Uh, yeah, I did. Hang on. Chaya saying, there is a Harum mentioned in Ezra 10:21. He was among those who returned to the land of Israel after the Babylonian exile, one of four responsible for certain priestly duties at the rebuilt temple. Aha! Interesting. My text says our jihad, says Cynthia. Thank you very much. There's also Harun al-Rashid, 5th century Abbaside Caliph of Baghdad, starting in 786. His reign is described in the Arabian Nights as the Golden Age. Yes, indeed, he is the Caliphate of the Arabian Nights, isn't he? Harun al-Rashid. It's impossible to isolate phenomena for very long, says Julian. He sees an essential unity. He can't isolate phenomena. A continuum carries it along. Yeah. Um, and it's almost in the way it's being presented, a montage in motion. It's almost like how you'd imagine lots of different frames, in a picture book or something like that, isn't it? The way that the prescience is presented. Just imagine just a picture book that goes on for eternity, sitting in darkness, and you can shine a light on it, occasionally see the odd flicker, maybe pull out the odd card. I think is a good way of thinking about it, isn't it? But it's just going to be a moat and the enormity of everything. Yeah, there are a number of there's a number of personalities I think that we could run with that would be similar to what we're talking about with Harum. But yeah, we've got to figure this one out. But yes, indeed. I'm gonna get it back at my Arabian Nights. Um, mm, it's you see where I was going. I think it's a bit like Khufu. Um, for example, Cheops is the nickname. Some of these, to me anyway, who are we? Ramesses the Great is Ozymandias, of course, isn't he? That's the Greek nickname for him. It's the same with Khufu, I believe. Cheops is the Greek nickname. I kind of that's kind of where I am with those guys. In relation to some of the pharaohs and stuff, I know them by their Greek names, so that's kind of where my yeah. We'll have to. I'm going to read a book on Egypt. I must have a. I've only got the one, but I think the investigation begins, folks. We need to, and you've got some candidates there. And Harum mentioned there. It doesn't seem as much as someone who's had priestly duties at a rebuilt temple. It doesn't line up with what I'm thinking of is that the Harum that we're going to get presented with is a god king. If you see what I mean, he need to be someone much more important than that. Um, hmm. But it's an interesting candidate. I'm going to definitely scribble them down as well, by the way, when I get to I'll do it the, yeah, I'll put it up here actually, Harum. I've left a good bit of space at the end of this chapter. Just there's Ezra, right. 10:21. I shall investigate. And that lines up. That's the. I think that individual lines up with the one that Christopher was talking about. Their Chaya. Yeah, we'll see what we can find out. I'll look at the HRM route. As I said, I don't know. The bit of evidence that I had, whenever I found it, I was really happy as a pig rooting in its own faces. It was a wee kind of moment. It was a long time ago, but I'll see what I can find. But I'm pretty sure how I found it was I found a cartouche. So we'll maybe have a wee, see if I can find a king list or something like that from the Pharaonic king list and have a nosy, start checking out cartouches. But yeah, again, Harun al-Rashid is a character that would line up with that, I think. And the Harum, the name sounds right, and again with that kind of relationship with the temple there, etc. I think we're going to see some connections with the God Emperor and Solomon when we get there. The older God Emperor, you know. Julian Thompson says, I also disagree that we're a program. The mind is hardware. It's part of the body. Program also implies programmer. It implies rigidity where the mind's reason and intuition is more flexible. Yeah, well, I'd argue a program perhaps, but software maybe, that whatever goes on in the mind isn't. I suppose maybe it is at a certain level, isn't it? It's chemical and electrical, you know. But really, really does make you wonder what makes everything tick. Excuse me. But yeah, we're hardware. Absolutely, we're not separate from hardware. To be the definition of hardware is anything in the ICT world basically that you can physically touch is hardware. Though we tend to separate data storage out from that. Program also implies programmer. Yes, indeed. It implies rigidity where the mind's reason and intuition is more flexible. Christopher Carey says, either way, I am Team Leto II. Excellent, Christopher. Yeah, we'll investigate. And it's yeah, we'll have to see what we can find. As I said, my conclusions were from a long time ago, and I don't have my evidence, and I might not even be remembering it correctly. But that I had done it from a PhD, and I'm pretty sure I've said that's who it is in the PhD, and I was horrified to find that the bit of evidence. Well, maybe it's not that anybody thought it was that big of an important thing in it, but it's not there. So it was a wee bit of a bugger. A bit of a shit moment for me actually. So I need to kind of see what we can find. I'm gonna look into it. I'm pretty good at this kind of stuff actually. I can be quite tenacious. But yeah, that's what makes it fun actually. I don't like to give up on things like this. We'll see what we can find out, and we'll check these other individuals out as well. Let's see now. Where are we? So yes, just to really point out that Leto is changing here. We have this guy from the Butlerian Jihad. So yeah, just to repeat that again, my copy had our fee had. Our jihad is a dump program. We dump the things which we destroy as humans. So again, a dump, I suppose, a bin, if you like. The things which means again, the language is probably computer language of a certain era, if you like, from the minister companion. And it was in Leto's mind that the speaker had been a servant of computers, one who knew them and serviced them. But the scene vanished, and Ghanima stood in front of him, saying, Gurney knows. He told me. They're Duncan's words, and Duncan was speaking as a mentat. In doing good, avoid notoriety. In doing evil, avoid self-awareness. Pardon me, that had to be future, far future. But he felt the reality. It was an intense as, sorry, let me just check that. Do. No, that's my mistake there. It was as intense as any past from his multitude of lives. And he whispered, "Isn't that true, Father?" But the Father presence within spoke warningly. "Don't invite disaster. You're learning stroboscopic awareness now. Without it, you could overrun yourself, lose your place mark in time." So, let's see. Having a wee nosy at this. The first vision we had was of this woman in front of a crude hut at dawnlight roasting coffee beans. Like I was saying with the cardamom and melange. Well, I don't know. I think I will. I like to do something new. The next time I make some coffee and have some cardamom, I think I'll throw it in and see what it tastes like. um, mm. Same with music. That's our first vision, and then we have this minister companion and his speeches. This is from the time of the Butlerian Jihad. He felt himself setting forth on the Butlerian Jihad, eager to destroy any machine which simulated human awareness, possibly like a pilgrim or a crusader, this kind of thing. A jihadist, actually, is the word we're looking for. And we get the sense of it's interesting, this kind of someone who's been used to working with machines but then has turned on them. And then we get this Ghanima now appears. Gurney knows he told me they're Duncan's words, and Duncan was speaking as a mentat. In doing good, avoid notoriety. In doing evil, avoid self-awareness. That had to be the future, the far future. But he felt the reality. It was as intense as any past from his multitude of lives. And he whispered, "Isn't that true, Father?" But the Father's presence within spoke warningly. "Don't invite disaster. You're learning stroboscopic awareness now. Without it, you could overrun yourself, lose your place mark in time." So, in other words, the ability to kind of use this lens, this spotlight, to create a kind of strobe effect, to create a sort of motion and pull things out, if you like, is a way of keeping for both Paul and Leto, I think, a way of keeping a marker for themselves in all the immensity of time and space, so they don't get lost. What Ghanima says, the advice that this Gurney knows, but they're Duncan's words. Duncan was speaking as a mentat. In doing good, avoid notoriety. So if you're doing good deeds, keep it quiet. If you're doing bad stuff, don't pay. Try not to be too introspective. Don't think about it too much. Avoid self-awareness. It's a very Machiavellian statement, isn't it? That's from the future. And Leto questions his father here, but the internal presence speaks with a warning. Don't invite disaster. I wonder what it is that he's doing that invites disaster here. Is it that future has now become a past moment for him, this kind of thing? And the bas-relief imagery persisted. Intrusions hammered at him. Past, present, now. There was no true separation. He knew he had to flow with this thing, but the flowing terrified him. How could he return to any recognizable place? Yet he felt himself being forced to cease every effort of resistance. He could not grasp his new universe in motionless, labeled bits. No bit would stand still. Things could not be forever ordered and formulated. He had to find the rhythm of change and see between the changes to the changing itself. Without knowing where it began, he found himself moving with a giant moment beyond Hure. I pronounced that terribly there. Moment beyond Haru. Sorry, there you go. Within a gigantic moment beyond Haru, able to see the past and the future, present and past, the now and both past and the future. It was the accumulation of centuries experience between one heartbeat and the next. To anybody French out there, pardonnez-moi. Oh dear. Well, yeah, my pronunciation there was just submerged. It was just not good. Bien who, a giant, big happy moment, basically, very happy moment. Um, Bien who's yeah, just very happy, isn't it? Jolly, that's the blissful, happy, this kind of thing, ecstatic. I think is what it means. You're in a good mood. uh, It was the accumulation of centuries, sorry, able to see the past and the future, present, past, the now, and both past and future. It was the accumulation of centuries experience between one heartbeat and the next. So again, this kind of idea of what everything is like for Leto here. We're getting a very much a some good imagery from Frank here, trying to give us a sense of it. Again, the thing that we get continually throughout this chapter is that Leto has a sense of terror about him. All of this is terrifying to him, and he knows he has to flow with the thing. He has to go with the flow. Row his boat gently down the stream. That kind of thing. Uh, and so, we're told he cannot grasp his new universe in motionless labeled bits. He can't. It's hard to pull out one part of it and look at it. Things could not be forever ordered and formulated. He had to find the rhythm of change and see between the changes to the changing itself. Without knowing where it began, he found himself moving with a giant moment beyond Haru, able to see the past and the future, present and past, the now in both past and future. It was the accumulation of centuries experience between one heartbeat and the next. Oh goodness, that's enough to get your head around, isn't it? It's what's the wee sentence I teach to, if I can remember it right, for tenses and stuff like that. But today is tomorrow's yesterday. Isn't that right? Today is tomorrow's yesterday. That kind of thing. Um, and to be able to mess around with that sentence and muck about with it, if you see what I mean, is good fun. But yes, the ability for him to move along perhaps a line of time, if you like, a linear presentation of time, where somewhere in that line is the now, which means parts before the now are the past, ones that haven't occurred yet are the future, that he can go to the different aspects of this and understand that where the past is in in the future, where the future is in the past, where the now is at all times. This kind of thing to kind of anchor his awareness, I think, is what I'm getting from that. Okay, let's have a look. China saying King Harum of Tyr, he supplied cedars from Lebanon to build the first temple. He thought it was good. Oh, we're going to get lots of Kenya. You're going to give me lots of work to do. Pardon me. Get some fluids here. Oh, excuse me. I'm trying some new cola tonight. That's giving me the hiccups. King Harum of Tyre, this is Chaya saying this. He supplied cedars from Lebanon to build the first temple. He thought he was godlike. Well, he could be a candidate then as well, with the HRM. Let's scribble that. But a huge throne palace that reached high into the sky. Sorry, built a huge throne palace that reached high into the sky. Thought he would live forever because he had outlived many kings. Was ultimately deposed and killed horribly by Nebuchadnezzar. All right, so he's the predecessor of Nebuchadnezzar. There's a statement. There's a sentence to say. The predecessor of Nebuchadnezzar. I could work that into some kind of fun nonsense poem, couldn't you? Sorry, I've lost my pen again here. Hang on. Oh, I've got tons of them over here. Come here, you'll do. Let's see. We got that. This is Harum of Tyre. tears, right? Okie dokie dokie. Thanking you. Killed horribly by Nebuchadnezzar. Yeah, there's. Oh, I've just found my pen. It's in the pen lip thing. Oh, there's a lot of that in the ancient world, isn't there? Thank you very much, Chai. It looks like we're going to get a bunch of candidates right here. Which means I'm going to learn about a bunch of people in the ancient world, so there's nothing wrong with that. Julian Thompson said, do electrons move stroboscopically in that they spin so fast as to become particle-like? The prescients see the waveform. Do they see the subatomic universe? Do they see other spectrums of light? I find the Tao of Physics by Fritjof Capra helpful for chapters like this. Jason, I thought electrons are waves until observed then they're particles. Julian Thompson says, which leads into Paul's prescience. Yes, observing the future changes it. Fixity. Harum of Tear is my vote, says Christopher. Right. Interesting. First of all, I haven't a clue. Do electrons move stroboscopically and that they spin so fast as to become particle-like? The prescients see the waveform. Do they see the subatomic universe? Boom, boom, boom. Where are we? Cannot grasp as in motionless labeled bits. No bit would stand still. Everything's moving. Everything moves, doesn't it? Everything spins. Everything vibrates. Maybe is a better word I'm looking for. The honest answer is I don't know enough about it to give you an answer, Julian. And from what China said, I'm honestly, to be honest with you, the reason why I'm saying that is because I thought all of this stuff was up in the air at the minute. Isn't there something to do with the double? And I haven't seen this yet, but there's something to do with the double slit experiment, isn't there? With dark photons or something? I've just kind of caught like a headline of it. Bear with me. Right, electron, let's see just what Wikipedia says, is a subatomic particle with a -1 elementary electric charge. It is a fundamental particle that comprises the ordinary matter that makes up the universe along with up and down quarks. They're extremely lightweight particles that orbit the positively charged nucleus of atoms. Their negative charge is balanced by the positive charge of protons in the nucleus, giving atoms their overall neutral charge. Ordinary matter is composed of atoms, each consisting of a positively charged nucleus surrounded by a number of orbiting electrons, equal to the number of protons. The configuration and energy levels of these orbiting electrons determine the chemical properties of an atom. Electrons are bound to the nucleus to different degrees. The outermost or valence electrons are the least tightly bound and are responsible for the formation of chemical bonds between atoms to create molecules and crystals. These valence electrons also facilitate all types of chemical reactions by being transferred or shared between atoms. The inner electron shells make up the atomic core. We've got an answer. Yeah, plays a vital role. Let me see. Sorry. Electrons play a vital role in numerous physical phenomena due to their charge and mobile nature. In metals, the outermost electrons are delocalized and able to move freely, accounting for their high electrical and thermal conductivity of metals. In semiconductors, the number of mobile charge carriers, electrons and holes, can be finely tuned by doping, temperature, voltage, and radiation, the basis of all modern electronics. Electrons can be stripped entirely from their atoms to exist as free particles. As particle beams in a vacuum, free electrons can be accelerated, focused, and used for applications like cathode ray tubes. electron microscopes, electron beam welding, lithography, and particle accelerators that generate synchrotron radiation. Their charge and wave particle duality, there we go, make electrons indispensable in the modern technological world. So wave particle duality is the concept in quantum mechanics that fundamental entities of the universe like photons and electrons exhibit particle or wave properties according to the experimental circumstances. Expresses the inability of the classical concepts such as particle or wave to fully describe the behavior of quantum objects. During the 19th and early 20th century, light was found to behave as a wave, then later was discovered to have a particle-like behavior, whereas electrons behave like particles, and early experiments then were later discovered to have wave-like behavior. The concept of duality arose to name these seeming contradictions. So electrons, the double-slit experiment is exactly what I was talking about. I don't know if anybody's seen this yet, but there is something new. It seems happening in the world of physics, etc., etc. But there's a lot of stuff that's kind of, I suppose, up in the air these days. But there you go. It was. I must actually watch the damn thing that I was talking about. There's a physicist, is it Sabine Hossenfelder, I think her name is. Does pretty good videos up, which I watch now and then, and I think she's got one up on it. But it's a topic that's buzzing around at the minute. So that's kind of why I was wondering about it, to be honest with you. So Christopher was saying, oh here, sorry, let me just jump back. I found the Tower of Physics by Fritjof Capra helpful for chapters like this. I could do a reading a few more stuff like that. Chaz if the electrons are waves will observe when they particularize, which leans into Paul's prescience. Yes, observing the future changes it fixity. Well, the only thing is that we can say, and I'll be interested to see how it goes with the God Emperor, is that there isn't a fixity with Paul's prescience. His prescience is not 100% correct. There's details that are wrong or absent, or just think. I mean, the emperor seeing one child that was meant to be Ghanima. There was no Leto at all in his vision. The thing with all the medics, for example, in Dune Messiah, all the information that he doesn't get, if you like, but there's things that are not in his vision, that they don't turn out perfectly. Which is the bit that always made me wonder about it. Excuse me. Was because he was so focused on one path that I have to go down this path. This is the only route to make sure that everything works out. It's the only way it can happen. The results of those paths that he chose to go down aren't the same as the visions that he had. It's possibly like the way it's being described here, that he lifted out the wrong. Sorry, I'll put that over there. Was getting out the wrong sort of snapshots, the wrong Polaroids, a bit like what we're being told. Is that the warning? In the epigraph in this chapter, about the wrong combinations from accurate information, But it was just to point out that it wasn't absolute. That he got things wrong, that as the futures that appeared weren't the same as the ones that he had foreseen. Though lots of it was there, if you see what I mean. There were definitely differences. Jessica could see the atomic level when she changed the spice the first time. Not sure about subatomic, says Chaya. Object group says electrons would be both waves and particles until they collapse. I think I'm just an enthusiastic artist. Waveform collapse. It's turned again. I think need more coffee. This is a great pod, Jill. Thank you very much, Object Group. Maybe you might want to try popping a cardamom pod in there with a pinch of cinnamon. I'm curious now. So they said this may be outdated, but I remember electron shells around the nucleus described as areas of probability where the charge might be when observed. Um, I don't know. I did really badly at this kind of stuff at school, but it's one of those things where my textbooks have definitely changed. Because I've seen some of, I've actually got a, oddly enough, I've got a physics book. Oh, what's it called at the moment for GCSE? Uh, what the hell do they call it? Just science or something? Level 1 and 2, something like that. But they don't do individual biology, chemistry, physics anymore here, which is a bit strange, I think. But yeah, I have a textbook, and I'm going to have to update my knowledge. It's way out of date. They know quite a lot, a bit more stuff about atoms and things these days. Uh, but yeah, it's always good to learn. We're all right. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out where we are here. Joya said, "There's no secret to balance. You just have to feel the waves." Dario Drad. I have an old bar trick from my days as a barman a long, long time ago. It's a wee fun thing. I'll maybe do it for you one day. I'll actually show you it. But what you do is you get three glasses like this, three empty glasses, and you stack them like that. One there, then that one, next glass there, and then the third glass would be here, and you get them to balance. There you go. And basically bet people they can't do it, and watch as they fail to do it. And I can do it, but there's actually a trick to it. But it's a kind of patience and counterbalance thing. But there is a little trick to doing it that you don't reveal. But used to be one of those ones. But they're not very fond of you doing it in bars because they always think you're going to smash the glasses. But yeah, I would show you now, but I don't have three glasses handy. But it's one of those things. Balance and patience is the key to it. But I can do it without the trick. There's a trick to doing it. But just there's no secret to balance. You just have to feel the waves. It's just that Dario Dradi. That reminded me of it. The prescient love when they miss details. New thing. They like being surprised, and little gears humanity to love surprises out in the scattering. Yeah, it's oh, excuse me. I'm always talking about old Harry's game. I'm a big fan of it. The radio comedy show. Goodness, how many years of that is there? There's 7 years of it. That's really, really good. It's God's problem. In old Harry's game is that he discovers that he's too omni. He's just too omni, and that nothing surprises him. And very much the kind of the way we're talking about here with the prescience. It's kind of resolved in the end by he discovers that he can be surprised. It's quite a good episode actually, but that just reminded me of it. But yes, indeed, the prescient love. Well, you would. There's no. I don't see that there'd be any good thing in being prescient. Predicting things, bad things that are going to happen, that kind of thing. It's not going to give you any peace, is it? They love when they miss details, new thing. They like being surprised, and little gears humanity to love surprises out in the scattering. Yes, all of them that are still alive, as I like to point out. Everyone else is dead, so they can't enjoy the surprises. You've got to always put no matter what with the Dune series, guys. I think you always have to put the little people stamp on it. Look at the death toll. And I think ultimately, whenever we do get there, I think the God Emperor's logic is badly flawed ultimately. But we'll have to see again. I'll have to tip. It's been too long since I've read it, so I'm looking forward to getting there. We're kind of beginning to get the God Emperor, by the way, is also a critique of Paul, and I think we're already going to get a little bit of that in this chapter here. Doing good, avoid notoriety, and doing evil, avoid self-awareness. Um, who can we say that of? Is that Paul? Is this advice for Leto? It's coming from Duncan in a mentat fashion. Gurney knows this. Is this advice that Leto the First would have followed? Is this advice that the Baron might do as well? You know, I don't think it would apply to the Baron ever. Not, I don't think he would ever avoid self-awareness. Oh, hang on. Sorry. Let's see. Cynthia saying Ghanima appearing in Leto's vision is interesting. Did she put this message there for him for just such a moment? I'm reminded of the young Alia sending Paul a message into the future. Yes. I was wondering about that. It's from the future, isn't it? And again, just with some parallels within this chapter, it's a very good point. How's that? Is it a future moment? Is it a message coming back? You know, the scene vanished and Ghanima stood in front of him saying, Gurney knows, he told me. They're Duncan's words, and Duncan was speaking as a mentat. In doing good, avoid notoriety. In doing evil, avoid self-awareness. That had to be the future, far future. But he felt the reality. Isn't that true, Father? And again, don't invite disaster. What's he? It's almost like, is he poking at the Father presence here? Yes, indeed. The bas relief imagery persisted. Bas relief is great. Let me read you this. Okay, bas relief is low relief. Let's see. What did I click? There, Wikipedia. Low relief or bas relief. There we are. A low relief is projecting image with a shallow overall depth, for example, used on coins, on which all images are in low relief. In the lowest relief, the relative depth of the elements shown is completely distorted and seen from the side. The image makes no sense, but from the front, the small variations in depth registers a three-dimensional image. Other versions distort depth much less. The term comes from the Italian basso relievo via the French bas relief, both meaning low relief. The former is now a very old-fashioned term in English, and the latter term is becoming so. Okay. A good laugh with sorry, bas relief is not in my part, not my. It's not a term that I would consider out of use. But then I've had to explain it to my wife. It's one of those terms where I was chatting to my wife about bas relief once, and she just went, "What the hell are you talking about?" And then she thought it's one of those things that she thought I was making up. So bas relief, BAS, base relief, if you like. Again, this kind of almost this three-dimensional aspect to it. But there we go. That's what it is. It's low relief, etc. is used on all sorts of inscriptions and carvings and things like that. And apparently now bas relief is an old-fashioned term. Is going out of fashion. Dear oh dear, I'll have to bring it back. I don't like that. But yes, indeed. So again, the sense that he's being terrified, and he's looking to fall into the rhythm of it, etc. But why is the questioning of the Father there as well? You're learning stroboscopic awareness now. Without it, you could overrun yourself, lose your place mark in time. And again, is that partly to do with the nature of the Kwisatz Haderach? Require the recipe, as we said, is first start with a mentat, if you like. But the mentat has this ability, this Gestalten function to overlay data paths in your awareness, which resolves complexities and masses of input from the mental index catalog techniques, which you already have mastered. So these catalog techniques, in some sense, as well as the ability to put an overlay on things, I think, are the skills, perhaps, that the mentat school of thought brings to the Kwisatz Haderach that lets them handle this kind of stuff. The way I think of it is just like, as I said, like thousands of just like Polaroids or something, millions and millions, billions of them going on forever, and each one of them is a moment in time. How do you deal with that? And he's probably got some kind of ways of kind of almost like this catalog system, this kind of mental overlay of dealing with it. Some sort of kind of linear, who knows, linear cataloging system, if you like. I don't know. Past, present, future, past, this kind of thing. Excuse me a wee second, folks. I'm going to hit mute very quickly. I need to blow my nose. That's better. I've come a long way from the first days where I would leave the room to do, not realizing I had a mute button. Let me see. But yeah, it's a good question, Cynthia, and it does remind me. This just, and it's because also, is she appearing in from a point in the future, because it's kind of that she's kind of breaking through this vision in a funny way, isn't it? The scene vanished and there she is. And it is very reminiscent of what Alia does. And it's interesting that Alia's power, it was this one-off thing that we never kind of got to see developed. I suppose it's one of those things that Frank left hanging. Johnson, incidentally, the human scattering which Leto ultimately creates can be compared to scattering phenomena in space wave propagation. Very good, Julia. Chaya says, until the futures occur, there are probabilities to steer towards. And for the prescient, sorry, continued there. The other thing is that how many of them are possible futures, and that will cease to exist whenever the one future that does exist, for example, is there a multiverse going on here? What's happening? How many futures are there out of any given moment that needs to occur? And you'd imagine that it probably infinite, possibly like starting to think about sideways time and stuff like that. Start to mess with your head. Carlos is saying Chaya, which brings up the question of, does the prescient see the future or create it? Yes, indeed. Do they steer us towards a particular future? Are they making it happen? Chaya saying, or maybe they compute the probabilities. It negates the concept of free will of humanity in any case, unless individual free will of random players accounts for the mistakes the prescient make. Pardon me. There we go. And Cynthia saying, Leto scattered his awareness via the sand trout at the end of God Emperor of Dune. In the later books, the need to get beyond Leto's surviving pearls of awareness suggests that they still exerted control over events. It's that aspect of Leto's death that I thought tied in nicely with the death of Jacurutu and the Jacurutu myth, and that the different parts of his body go towards making weapons and armor and stuff like this to be used by the people who come after him. And that's the bit where it started to sort of resonate with me with the Jacurutu myth, that there is more to it than just the nature of the trap and the tortoise, that kind of thing. Yes, indeed. That's some really good points, folks. Now, let's see. Where were we? The accumulation of centuries of experience between one heartbeat and the next. Leto's awareness floated free. No objective psyche to compensate for consciousness. No barriers. Namri's provisional future remained lightly in his memory, but it shared awareness with many futures. So prior to this, really, I suppose that not many futures seemed apparent with the trap that Gurney had set with Namri. Things were looking pretty bleak and limited to Leto previously. Pardon me. Namri's provisional future remained lightly in his memory, but it shared awareness with many futures. And in this shattering awareness, all of his past, every inner life became his own. With the help of the greatest within him, he dominated. They were his. Ooh, okay, that's again hugely important. So the bits that we're saying, this is it, is that he's changing. That's the first one. This is this moment here. The help of the greatest within him. With the help of the greatest within him, he dominated. They were his. Um, and basically, this is also, by the way, this is what Alia has done um, with the Baron. Shall we just say that with the help of the greatest within her, which happens to be the Baron, um, she's able to dominate, keep subdued all the other personalities. But this is he dominated, and this is him dominating. They were his. This possessive. They belong to him now. They're mine. You know. Like, pardon me. And he thought, when you study an object from a distance, only its principle may be seen. He had achieved the distance, and he could see his own life now. The multi-past and its memories were his burden, his joy, and his necessity. But the worm trip had added another dimension, and his father no longer stood guard within him, because the need no longer existed. Leto saw through the distances clearly, past and present, and the past presented him with an ultimate ancestor, one who was called Harum, and without whom the distant future would not be. These clear distances provided new principles, new dimensions of sharing. Whichever life he now chose, he'd live it out in an autonomous sphere of mass experience, a trail of lives so convoluted that no single lifetime could count the generations. Aroused, this mass experience held the power to subdue his selfdom. It could make itself felt upon an individual, a nation, a society, or an entire civilization. That, of course, was why Gurney had been taught to fear him, why Namri's knife waited. They could not be allowed to see his power within him. No one could ever see it in its fullness, not even Ghanima. The worm trip again, interesting term. But he's able to distance himself from this now. He can be objective, have a look at it. And the father presence, that aspect of Paul Atreides from within other memory that's there, that's not the real Paul, of course, is gone, being replaced with this ancestor. This is the one we've all been nattering about, folks. This is the moment. This is how he does it. This is Harum, the ultimate ancestor, one who was called Harum, and without whom the distant future would not be. Bear with me a second, folks. Tell you what, I always forget that I've got tons of stuff here. Let me have a look. Right, bear with me now. Boom, that's fine. Okay, I've got to mention 9 times. Let's see. Leto II particularly allows the person. Right, here's what I've got here. This is from my PhD. It says Harum is another name for the Egyptian pharaoh Khufu, also known as Cheops of the 4th dynasty. A historical character Frank Herbert viewed as suitably tyrannical and of similar aspect to be of assistance to Leto II in bringing about the Golden Path as he rules the empire during his 3,500-year reign as God Emperor. Now that's a footnote in my PhD. Let me see what else have we got. This is the personality of Harum, Egyptian Pharaoh. Without him, the distant future would not be. Uh, what have we got? His name was Harum. Let's see. Until his line trailed out in the congenital weakness and superstition of a descendant, his subjects lived in a rhythmic sublimity. They moved unconsciously with the changes of the seasons. They bred individuals who tended to be short lived, superstitious, and easily led by a god king. Taken as a whole, they were a powerful people. Their survival as a species became habit. This is when he's chatting to Farad later. I don't like the sound of that. Let's see. Okay. By the Sisterhood's definition, perhaps Harum is cruel and autocratic. I partake of his cruelty. Mark me well. I have the cruelty of the husbandman, and this human universe is my farm. Fremen once kept tame eagles as pets, but I'll keep a tame Faradan. Let me see. That's personality of Harum again. Transliteration. There we go. Now, what have I got here? Herbert calls this personal which represents it's a transliteration of a Horus name of the Egyptian pharaoh Khufu brackets Cheops is what I've got. It's a transliteration of a Horus name. I don't have my. Hang on, I've got one more. No, that's it. That's all 9 instances. That's what I've written down, and I haven't put it in the. Why? Of a Horus name. Sure, am I? Right. Well, that's a bit of a clue. Maybe help me see if I can find it again. That's what I had. I didn't put my source. Bad Russell. Bad Russell. Sorry about that, folks. But anyway, I'm going to investigate, and we have that's the autocratic and cruel. We have some descriptors for this individual. So that's why I wouldn't think that. To be honest with you, that who are we talking about way back there? What hero of Tyre was that? Is it Harum, the one from Ezra? I don't think that would be a good candidate. I'll look into him. It doesn't sound like the right sort of chap. If you see, that's what got me thinking on Pharaoh, God Kings. But yes, I'll have a look into it and see. But there we go. That's Harum. And I suppose the question that's been asked already today is, has Harum taken over? Really? And is essential for the future. Without him, it's not going to happen. Said, I think. Sorry, we had caught up there. Is the how of Leto's transformation told to anyone but Ghanny? It's a wonder no one else tried to rival Leto or to grab power for themselves. I always thought, isn't it a pity that Ghanny decided not to join him at a certain point? Maybe even if she's her and Farad are involved in this, the breeding program, this kind of thing, and she gives birth to, numerous scions of the Atreides line for that purpose. At some point, she could have made a decision to perhaps join him. I thought would have been interesting. It's one of the sadnesses for me is who we lose at the end of this book, I suppose, in terms of characters. My vote is also Harum of Tyre. We'll have a look, definitely. We'll get back to these on it, folks. I'm gonna investigate. See if we can find anything from Frank himself. As I said, I wouldn't have. I personally, if you'd asked me just to guess, back when I did this, I would not have guessed Cheops. That would not have been. I wouldn't have went there. If you see what I mean. So I'm trying to. It's a name that I wouldn't have suggested. That's kind of why I've got it. Well, hope as I said, you never know, but we'll check them all out actually and see what we've got. I'm happy to be proved wrong, folks. No worries. We'll get our evidence. Well, that's what I like about it. It's another little mystery to be solved. That's, that's the fun of it. Now, let me see. Where did we get to? Presently, Leto sat up, saw that only Namri remained, watching. In an old voice, Leto said, "There's no single set of limits for all men. Universal prescience is an empty myth. Only the most powerful local currents of time may be foretold. But in an infinite universe, local can be so gigantic that your mind shrinks from it." Namri shook his head, not understanding. Pardon me, where's Gurney? Leto asked. He left lest he have to watch me slay you. Will you slay me, Namri? In my copy of the book, there's no quotation marks at the end here. It was almost a plea to have the man do it. That's an interesting little comment from the omniscient third-person narrator. Almost wants him to do it. I'm almost wondering if a little bit of prescience is kicked in here, is this the way to definitely to make sure that he doesn't? Pardon me, if you see what I mean. So what he says to Namri is there's no single set of limits for all men. Universal prescience is an empty myth. So if you think you're getting it with me, because if you think my father had it, again, it's the thing we were pointing out, he didn't. Only the most powerful local currents of time may be foretold, but in an infinite universe, local can be so gigantic that your mind shrinks from it. So what I got from that is that your ability to foretell stuff with prescience is on we'll just call it the local scale within the Dune universe, but that the Imperium of man, if you like, the however many thousands of worlds it is just a mote in the entire universe, and that's local. So certainly the ability to affect things on that scale, I think we're getting the sense there that it's possible. It can be gigantic that your mind, even though an infinite local can be so gigantic that your mind shrinks from it. But within the universe, I suppose, of man and the ability to move within it, even though that's gigantic, you could look at it in terms of it's the local group, this kind of thing. My vote is also Harum of Tear, says Chaya. Oh, here, did I miss something here? Bear with me a second, folks. Did I miss a whole bunch of visual cards? Oh no, I think I got these here. Bear with me. Leto scattered his awareness. The Sansa at the end of God Emperor Dune. Yes, we remember reading that. Is the high of Leto's transformation told to anyone but Gani? It's a wonder no one else tried it to try to rival Leto or to grab power for themselves. Yeah. My vote is also Harum of Tear. We might have to wait to God Emperor of Dune for more clues. We might indeed. I grabbed a few there from my PhD. Isn't that always the way, says Julian? Mine has M quotes. Thank you, Chaya. Well, I will go investigating. As I said, that if what I found was correct the last time, I don't know. I found it buried somewhere. But I'll go and investigate, and we'll check these options out as well. See what we can find. Autocratic and cruel, God Emperor type individual, ancient world. Goes by the name of Harum. Let's see if we can track them down. Harum. Is isn't that the noise that the ants make? Harum in Lord of the Rings, isn't it? And they're just doing their thing. Harum, something like that. Minus that. Harum, don't be hasty. China said, are Tylaxian Ixians considered part of humanity at this point, or are they branch species? That's an interesting question. I would have to argue that everyone's a branch species of humanity at this point, because they're living on other planets which have variations in atmosphere and gravity, etc., etc. And we're even told that the Fremen have their physiology has altered, that their intestines have changed because of the way they've adapted to water, and that's presented as a Lamarckian, isn't it? A Lamarckian feature, soft inheritance. Um, so I technically everyone's human, but technically nobody's human, if you like, in terms of what's a baseline human, if that's us. Um, I think they're all slight variations of future humanities. Um, I'd be harder pressed to say what the Twi'lek actually are. I mean, I know what they are, but to put a descriptor on it. But they're a male orientated society, aren't they? In a similar way that the Bene Gesserit are female orientated, but they're quite horrific. Ixians more, I think, are just it's their technology. I think they would be closer to sort of baseline humans, I think. But again, I'm not remembering her. But it's interesting with certain groups. We saw them in in Dune Messiah, but we no Tylaxu in Dune at all. See them in Dune Messiah, and they're virtually non-existent in this book as well. Dirty. So Julian saying the dirty Tylaxu are certainly a branch. Ixians might just be nerds. The differentiation of species gets way more dramatic in the scattering. Think futars. Julian said, I say dirty defeat into the Tylaxu propaganda. Yes, indeed. The dirty Tylaxu, the filthy Tylaxu. Absolutely. I like that. Yeah, it's they get up to this again. They're often, I would consider the Bene Chilex in many ways a mirror to the Bene Gesserit. They're worth looking at in tandem, I suppose. But yeah, they're an interesting species, and they, I suppose, how they've subjugated their women um, is one thing, and also that they're a particular branch of Islam as well, combined with um, I suppose, wasn't it? There's Sufi and Zen Sunni, isn't that right? I believe. Um, so yeah, I think they're interesting, but I said it becomes much more apparent, I suppose, in the next book. You know, face dancers cloned can't breed at this point. Hmm. Guild navigators were once human. Yeah, again, well, sort of everything still is, but isn't. Mutations, I suppose. But if everybody, I would argue, say just for the Atreides, for example, whatever planet they're living on, their atmosphere is not exactly the same as the Earth's. Its gravity wouldn't be the same. Over time, there would be differences, wouldn't they? They'd have, I don't know. It's interesting. You kind of wonder about medicines and things like that, and immunity, and all as much as we deal with a whole lot of stuff within the Dune universe, we don't talk about the little critters, the microbes and stuff like that. I think too much. I don't know. It's just I think what it's the idea is that if anybody, for example, if people went to Mars and they stayed there and they started having kids and then their kids had kids, there'll be slight differences though a few generations and they won't really be the same as being human. I think. Um, but I think it's because there'll be like planetary factors would probably I don't know to be honest with you, but I would imagine that they would affect um, fetal development a lot quicker. Particularly things like gravity. Um, just in general, things would be changed. Is that slight variance in species? Is that a new species? Taller, different gravities. You get that in things like the VCs, object group vacuum cleaners. Guys from the big squat guys from the big gravity planets and the low gravity planets, tall, spindly, this kind of thing. Speciation of the Thylaxu is entirely self-afflicted. Yeah, I suppose it's like they've learned the language of God, isn't it? That they've learned the language of genetics, and the way I get it, in a sense, to be closer to God, have started applying aspects of that language to themselves. But yes, I think some of the things, especially about the Thylaxu, the actual tanks. We've gotten hints and different senses of different types of tank, I think. But that'll probably be fleshed out a little bit more. I think what they are is quite horrific. Actually, it's that's the Thylaxu can never really kind of come out of the Dune series without me going, what the hell? What's that about? They're a bit messed up, Seriously. Um, mm, yes, indeed. And you kind of wonder what Frank had planned for the very end. So let's see. Nami shook his head, not understanding. Where's Gurney? Leto asked. He's left lest he have to watch me slay you. Will you slay me, Namri? It was almost a plea to have the man do it. Namri took his hand from his knife. Since you asked me to do it, I will not. If you are indifferent, though, the malady of indifference is what destroys many things, Leto said. He nodded to himself. Yes, even civilizations die of it. It's as though that were the price demanded for achieving new levels of complexity or consciousness. He looked up at Namri. So they told you to look for indifference in me. And he saw Namri was more than a killer. Namri was devious. As a sign of unbridled power, Namri said. But it was a lie. Indifferent power, yes. Leto sat up, sighed deeply. There was no moral grandeur to my father's life, Namri. Only a local trap, which he built for himself. And that, referring back to the most powerful local currents of time, may be foretold, but in an infinite universe, local can be so gigantic that your mind shrinks from it. That's what it's about. There's no moral grandeur to my father's life, Namri, only a local trap which he built for himself. No moral grandeur to Paul's life. In doing good, avoid notoriety, and doing evil, avoid self-awareness. Isn't that true, Father? Is the way that ran there. So there we have the end of this chapter, and I think pretty much as Leto sits up, that's the God Emperor. I've written at the bottom of this, a God Emperor is born, just for a giggle. There you go. Rejoice. And I threw in a couple of exclamation marks in honor of Frank there, folks. But there we go. We've got to the end of the chapter. Cracking stuff. They've captured this kid, this little 9-year-old. They've played a bizarre riddle game where they've constantly threatened that I'll kill you the minute you give me the wrong answer. And then in pops Gurney here with seemingly that he's betrayed him and the Atreides. It's not the case. He's acting under Jessica's orders, so he's still loyal. In that sense, this is kind of you're not going to like this, but it's for your own good kind of thing. And then we get Leto injected. The one thing that they've been trying to stop from happening has happened. And within this, we get his visions within the trance of the spice trance, the skin not being his own. I've got that on the computer. I keep waiting for the right time. I think it's not just yet, but we've got Marie-Noelle Zinder's article on the Moapo of Leto Atreides, the me skin, if you like, the second skin, which takes a look at this in terms of the psychoanalytical aspects of this idea from the work of Didier Anzu, if you like. That's what that's about. So we're going to, rather than me just sort of say that and expect you guys to know what the hell I'm talking about, I've actually got it. It's an article from Science Fiction Studies, I believe, one of the science fiction journals. And here, I'll tell you what, actually, in fact, let me see. Oh, no, that's not it. That's the article on The White Plague by Ellen Fian. Sorry, hang on. Where are I? Let me see. I wonder, let me copy that. Let's copy that bit. Right, here we go. If anyone's interested, if you can find this online. Let's see. This is one of our science fiction journals. So it's Science Fiction Studies, and there we go. That's the number 66, volume 22, part 2, July 1955. If anybody wants to go and check that out in advance themselves and have a wee nosy, the article, if you get it with the French, it's the Muad'Dib, though it's in English. But if you hit translate on Google, it'll turn it into the me skin, if you like. So it's the Muad'Dib of Leto II and Herbert's Atreides saga from Science Fiction Studies, number 66, volume 22, part 2, July 1995. And it has a wee, it's quite an interesting little article. Studies, it just says the study is inspired by the works of the French psychoanalyst Didier Anzou, especially his most famous work, Le Muad'Dib. The theory of the Muad'Dib posits a parallel between the skin, i.e., the envelope that limits, contains, and protects the body, and what he calls a psychic envelope, which serves a similar function for the self. Our purpose is to show to what extent the theory of the Muad'Dib can be applied to a fictional character like Leto II, and to demonstrate that through such a fantasy, Leto's behavior can be interpreted as autistic and also as the inevitable denouement of an adventure which has certain similarities to the psychotic family novel. It's a great article, and I'm going to basically, I'm going to read it all to at the point where the skin goes on. Basically, that's what I have been planning to do. So we'll read it to you in full. But if anybody at that episode, but if anybody wants to check it out in the meantime, I found it quite easily. Pardon me, I've got a paper copy buried somewhere over there. I didn't think I would find it for tonight if I decided to use it, but I've ended up putting it onto a fresh Word document there. So I've got it on the desktop to read. And there you go. What a yes, indeed. We get Leto goes through this process. He's taken in the water of life and transmuted and come out safely the other side, but he has changed. What has he changed into? He's changed into the God Emperor, and he has not only that, with the assistance of a personality called Harum, he has been able to dominate all of the other memory personalities within him, and they're his. That he owns them. They belong to him now. He's in charge. Very interesting, and we're told that this future cannot exist without Harum. We all know it's quite an important thing, and we're going to do it. We'll have a bit of a matter about who is Harum tonight. I've been saying I believe it's Khufu or Cheops, but we've got a few other candidates there. I'm going to go investigate and see what we can find. My bit of evidence came from a long time ago, and that was the name that I found, and I've unfortunately lost it, which is really sad. I'll tell you what, I will know if I find it, because I remember having a printout of it, and I had a whole pile of cartouches on it. So if I do find a bit of paper over there with some cartouches on it, I will have it for you. And otherwise, we'll just have to see what we can find. But we're going to keep an open mind about it. We've got some other candidates there, and run with any other options we can think of the HRM route. But I think definitely, I think it's worth the bigger the and badder the individual. I think the more happier I will be with him as a candidate. I think we're looking for someone who is something very similar to Leto in the ancient world, if you see what I mean, but yeah, here we have him, and already the almost, just to point out before we wrap up tonight, folks, But the last thing that happens in this chapter, uh, we've talked a wee bit about Denis Villeneuve getting the idea that Frank Herbert wasn't happy with Dune the way it was received, and that's why he wrote Dune Messiah. And he got all that idea quite wrong. That we're in our third book here. Parts of this book, all three first books were written, conceived together at one point, and bits of these books were written way back at the start. You notice it actually sometimes. The use of certain punctuation or certain terms, or just the way sometimes things don't flow within the book, oh goodness, let me see. But it's the point I wanted to make, just in relation to that, is that as we've got Leto developing throughout this, the whole purpose, one of the purposes of Leto in the next book, in God Emperor of Dune, is to provide a critique, and that's I think you see that's where Denis Villeneuve went wrong. I think somebody gave him. I think he got two, a bit like our, oddly enough, a bit like our epigraph. I think he was given two different pieces of information and put them together and got that wrong. If you see what I mean. But what we end up with here is I think there's almost a little bit of this earlier on in the chapter. We could maybe call it the first one here, where Ghanima appears in front of Leto and says, in doing, points out about what Gurney knows, that they're Duncan's words, and that the words are, in doing good, avoid notoriety, in doing evil, avoid self-awareness. And what he whispers is, isn't that true, Father? And the personality within him sort of exclaims that, shouts, don't invite disaster. We could take that first statement almost as the beginning of a critique of Paul Atreides, but that's what Leto will do for us in God Emperor of Dune. He will critique the nature of Paul Atreides as Emperor, as hero, as Messiah, all of these things. And that's kind of where Frank does that. That's kind of and the way I've always put it is this: Paul Atreides is a warning, and the way I look at it is Dune, Messiah, Children of Dune. That's Frank warning you. And then God Emperor, and you're being set up already here in Children of Dune. But God Emperor is, I warned you. I really did warn you. Now here comes something much worse. And not only that, this predator, this thing, is going to give you an education on what was wrong with his daddy, why his father was, wrong about this, what was up with him, But this last little bit of this chapter, which is absolutely fantastic, I think, indifferent part. Yes, Leto set up. Sighed deeply. There was no moral grandeur to my father's life, Namri, only a local trap which he built for himself. And is that the first proper critique of Paul Atreides, of Muad'Dib? That's where I was going with this. By the God Emperor, by Leto II. This is the beginning of the critique, if you see what I mean, I think, of his father and his father's rule. It's a lesson about Paul, and it's given to Namri. No moral grandeur. And he survived this Gom Jabbar, for want of a better term. I think it's a moment of, it's a little death. It's actually almost a real death. And I think he's reborn here. This is to me is the beginning of the God Emperor. And he's achieved a pearl of great wisdom as well. Ooh, pardon me. There you go. What a great chapter, folks. Let me just catch up with your comments. Julian saying the concept of inner and outer, the illusion of mind separate from body, body separate from the cosmos, is something that Alan Watts, friend of Frank, explores heavily. And Julian said Villeneuve had the Babel problem. He did indeed. It seems that way, I think. The information, I get where he gets the information, but it's putting a couple of these two different things together. So I pointed out a wee while back the Babel problem, that somebody had plagiarized a bit of my work and made a video out of. I'm taken to in a kind of attempt to hide it, taken two completely unrelated things and put them together, which was very funny, but it resulted in them, I think, calling the Iliad and the Odyssey and a travelogue. Dear oh dear. But yeah, the Babel problem. Chaya said in Kabbalah, one level of soul is infused or expressed in the brain as what we call mind. A second level is expressed in the heart, emotion, and a third level in the liver. Oh, appetite or desire. Oh, that's interesting. The liver seemed a bit anticlimactic there, not to be rude about it. The head, the heart, and the liver. But I suppose, yes, indeed. Third levels for appetite or desire. Interesting. Well, there we go, folks. That's the malady of indifference. We've got Harum has appeared for the who's with the ultimate ancestor. It's interesting. I'm kind of curious, by the way. Here's a wee fun. I'll leave you with this thing tonight, but just think of it as a little bit of a thought experiment. But you've suddenly achieved other memory, and you've got all these so-and-sos clamoring for attention in your head. You need to choose an ultimate ancestor to suppress them all. Who would you pick? And would they be up for the job? I suppose. Would you pick someone out of, I just really fancy having a chat with that person? Or who would you pick if you needed to pick a personality to keep them all in line? I'm wondering, who would you pick? I think that's an interesting one. I think I have an idea for my own, but there you go. But listen, what an excellent chapter. Next chapter, I didn't want to run ahead with this one tonight, just with time and things, but it's just because we have a separation into Ghanima being a little bit murderous in the next chapter, and I really quite like that. But I thought that was a great chapter tonight. It's actually taken us a lot longer to get through than I thought it would. Let's take a couple 2.5 hours there, because it was quite, again, some of these are quite short at the minute. Apart from a couple on the way, we're going to be running a whole lot of the chapters as pairs because they're quite short. Pardon me. But I really, really enjoyed that chapter. I don't know about you guys, you folks out there. Julian said this chapter is excellent. I must have missed that. Sorry. As God Emperor. Oh, sorry, I've missed comments, folks. I do apologize. It's no single set. Oh, it was Chaya says God Emperor Leto has both notoriety and self-awareness. Yes, indeed. Yes, he does. He's got it in spades. What's friend of Frank Explorers have it? Yes, indeed. And Julian said thanks, Doc. So I said they said thanks, Doc, and all interesting themes here. Yes, indeed. We're just getting going with it, aren't we? And Julian said thanks, Doc. Thanks. I'll see you all next week. Yes, indeed, folks. Thank you. Next week's chapter 40. We've got Alia, Irulan, and Ghanima in the room. That'll be the chapter that begins with "O Paul, thou Muad'Dib, married of all men, thy breath exhaled, sent forth the hurricane." It's possibly a song of Frank's that you could rock to. Was it? There's a thing on YouTube. Does it riff? Something like that, you know. But that's where we'll be at. We'll be back on Thursday at 10 o'clock. GMT +1 with that chapter 40 next week, folks. Yeah, and we're getting up to things, so hopefully we'll keep it stim, but we're getting up to things for the channel as well. So hopefully we'll let you know about that soon enough. But once again, as always, thank you everybody for your questions, your comments, your help, and your answers, your speculations. It's been fantastic. It's been a really interesting chapter. As I said, we're bombing towards the end of the book, and as much as God Emperor of Dune is the book we're heading to, the man himself has appeared. Really, we've got the God Emperor as a 9-year-old here, essentially, I think, and all we've got to do is get him armored up, in a sense, you know. But there we go, folks. So listen, thank you very much, and look after yourselves. Chai saying good night. All great discussion. Thanks, thank you. Indeed, it was. Yeah, take it easy, folks. Look after yourselves as always. Be safe, and we'll see you real soon. Take care and thank you. Bye bye. Take it easy. Do, 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 ba, da, ba, da, ba, da, 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 da.